Hi, Nature Explorers. Well, you should have just watched my story called The Sky Bear, and I told you to look for the Fisher's Reward, so here we are. So this is a story from the Ojibwe people. They called themselves the Anishinaabe people. That means the original people or the true people. Their their homelands were what we now call southern Canada or the northern Midwestern United States. So that was where they were from and where this story is from. So this is the story called The Fisher's Reward. Now a fisher, you might have to Google it. You might have to look it up. Not very many people know what a fisher is. It's a not very big animal. He's kind of in the marten family. He's about maybe yay big and weighs about 20 or 30 pounds, and he comes out kind of at night and he lives up in the tops of trees, and he's not very well known, so you might have to Google him to see who a fisher is, but he's going to be the star of our story here today. But back a very long time ago, when the earth was new, all the animals spoke a common language. And since they could all speak to each other, they were friends, and they very often had celebrations and parties for any kind of an event. It was just one of their favorite things. And so they were having one of these celebrations, and Bear happened to look up into the sky, and he saw a dark robe coming down across the day star. And he called to the rest of the animals and said, look what's happening. And they all looked up, and sure enough, within seconds, a dark robe had fallen across the sun and made the sky completely dark, and the earth became dark and cold. Well, this had never happened before, and so all of the animals were confused and they were frightened, and Bear said, oh, something must be done about this. And so he called a council to meet, and all the great animals got together to try to discuss what to do about this problem. And so the great ones were all there, and they were talking and talking and talking, and the small ones were waiting to see what the great ones were going to do about this very serious problem. And they were waiting and waiting, and the great ones were talking and talking and talking, and eventually Fisher went to the council. Remember, he was not a great, he's fairly small. He goes to the council and he says, please, let me help. I would like to help. And Bear, who was very kind, said, oh, Fisher, we appreciate your offer, but, this is a very great problem, and only the great ones can solve such a great problem, and we are the great ones. So you'll have to just go away. And so Fisher went away. And the great ones talked and talked some more, and finally they decided that Bear should go to the top of the council hill and see about this darkness problem and see if he could find a way to fix it. And so Bear climbed to the top of the council hill, and he reared up on his back legs, and he swiped at the sky with his giant paws, and he growled ferociously, and it was no use. It was still dark. Nothing had happened. So he came back down the hill and went back to the council, and the old great ones talked and talked and talked some more, and Fisher went back to the council and said, please, please, can't I help? I would really like to try and help. And Deer, who was very patient, said, oh, Fisher, that's kind of a nice offer, but, this is a great problem, and we are the great ones, and we're going to have to solve it, so you're going to have to leave. And so Fisher left. And the great ones talked, and they talked some more, and finally they decided that Deer should go and see what he could do about this darkness. And Deer went to the top of the council hill, and he reared up on his hind legs, and he shook his great antlers, and he swiped at him with his sharp hooves, and nothing happened. It was no use. It was still dark. And now it's getting very cold, and the tender plants are all starting to wilt, and the animals are starting to get very, very worried. Deer goes back to council, and they continue talking and talking and talking. And so the third time, Fisher goes to the council and he said, please, I beg you, can't I please just help? And Mountain Lion, who was not as kind as Bear and was not as patient as Deer, said, Fisher, I'm getting tired of this silliness. Now you keep coming here and you keep interrupting. This is a serious problem, and all you're doing is causing problems for us. We are going to take care of this. You need to leave. So Fisher leaves again. And the great ones talked and talked some more, and they finally decided that Mountain Lion should go up there and take care of this dark problem. So Mountain Lion goes to the top of the council hill, and he rears up on his hind legs, and he swipes at the darkness with his giant claws, and nothing happened. It's still dark. So he goes back down to the council, and they begin talking. And Fisher comes again and says, begs this time. He begs, please, please, can't I try? And before anybody could say anything, Bear said, Fisher, you might as well try. We're the great ones. We have tried to solve this problem and we have not been able to do it. You might as well try. You can't do worse than we have. So, Fisher runs to the top of the hill. And he runs up and he leaps up into the sky and he swipes at the darkness with his tiny paws, and he falls back to earth. And it's still dark. And he leaps up into the air and he swipes at the darkness and he falls back to earth. And he does this again and again. And Bear finally says, Fisher, you have to stop. You're going to hurt yourself. You can't continue to do this. But Fisher didn't seem to hear Bear say that, and he ran to the bottom of the hill, and he laid down to rest. And while he was resting, he called upon the Great Spirit, and he said, Great Spirit, please help me run faster than I have ever run before, and help me to leap up higher than I have ever leaped up before, and help me take this darkness away and bring the light back to our earth. After a moment of rest, Fisher ran up the council hill, and he ran faster than he had ever run before. And he got to the top of the hill and he leaped up higher than he had ever leaped before, higher than anyone had ever leaped before. And he touched with his tiny paw the darkness. And when he fell back to earth, the darkness fell away from the day star. The sun became uncovered. The light came back to the earth, or came back to the sky. The light and the warmth came back to the earth, and the animals were filled with joy because everything was back to normal. Well, this was cause for celebration. They liked having parties. So they had a celebration, and there was dancing, and there was singing, and the great ones gave great speeches, long and loud and proud. And finally Bear said, Where's Fisher? He needs to be here. We have to honor him. He's the one who brought the light back to our earth. And Deer called, Fisher, come. We need to honor you. But Fisher didn't come. And so Bear remembered, the last I saw Fisher was when he fell back to earth after touching the darkness. And so all the animals, the bear and the mountain lion and everyone, they all ran to the top of Council Hill to look for Fisher. And when they got there, they found his small broken body at the top of the hill. They were all so sad and mournful, and they grieved and they cried and were just heartbroken that Fisher had given his life to bring back the light. Well, the Great Spirit heard all the grieving and all the sadness coming from the Council Hill, and he came down and he gently picked up Fisher's body and he took it up into the sky, and he placed Fisher in the northern part of the heavens, and he marked the spot, the star. And then he came back to the Council Hill, and when he came back, he told the animals, he said, now, you remember, when you look at Fisher's star shining in the northern part of the sky. That star will always bring you home. You can call it the home star. But remember, Fisher was not one of the great ones. And so his star is not one of the great ones. It is small. It will be kind of hard to find. But you need to know to look for it. And again, remember, Fisher was not one of the great ones. He was small, but he never gave up, and he prevailed against the darkness, and he brought the light and the warmth and the sun back to our cold, dark, and dying earth. So never let anybody tell you that you're too small or that you're not one of the great ones. As long as you have the determination of Fisher, you can always prevail. So, now we have to connect this story back to the Sky Bear story, because since the Fisher's star is not one of the great ones, it's not real easy to find. So you need to have a way to find that North Star, that home star. And the way you do that is you go back to your Big Dipper. Remember the Sky Bear and the 4 stars in the bowl of the Dipper. The 2 that are on the end, if you draw a line straight up through those 2 stars, it points directly to Fisher's star, or the North Star, or Polaris as we call it. So that way you'll always be able to find north, and from north you'll be able to find your directions to get yourself home, as long as you remember where your home is. So, and remember, we also have on our playlist, the Jacobs Creek Watershed, on the playlist, there is a link to a really neat video about the Big Dipper and the North Star and how to find Polaris. So make sure that you click on that link and watch that video. So I hope you enjoyed these 2 stories that go together, and you'll spend some time watching the stars at night. Thanks. See you next time.